Hello, everyone. I am so sorry for that intolerable delay. I screwed up some incredibly basic step when I was trying to set this up because I haven't done a YouTube live stream in quite a while. I've been on them, but I haven't hosted any of them. And Prince of Queens, he has his channel has a strike on it right now, so at the moment he's unable to stream. So the Gaytriarchy Podcast falls to me, unfortunately. Okay. And for anyone who's there, I'm still scrambling about on my screen. Bacon, Spacepan, there you are.
I am here.
.com?
Hello. Yes, .com.
All right, we figured it out. Yeah, we just had a little bit of a...
Forgive us, people. We are just a bunch of several gay guys on the internet trying desperately to make sense of YouTube's advanced but incredibly unintuitive technology. So yes, Prince of Queens is
also having technical difficulties.
Yes, apparently I don't quite know where he is at the moment, but hopefully he will.
I'll send him the link through Skype too, just in case that's helpful.
Okay, yes, and everyone retweet the link for this actual video, since the one we put on Twitter half an hour ago is apparently dead in the water now. This is going to confuse and piss off people. We're sorry. Lex, I'm just going to mispronounce your name. I'm sorry, Lex Ruscio. You're going to be mad at me. I'm sorry. I believe the strike happened yesterday or the day before. Yes, Prince is definitely being late. He's having a really stressful time. His laptop died. He got a community strike. It is not a great day in the Prince of Queens kingdom right now. So, yes. Thank you, everyone, for your immeasurable patience. We're all just trying to figure this out. So let me share the link to you guys so that we can get this out on Twitter. And I've forgotten how to. Oh my god! Oh wait, there they are. It's like I seem to have forgotten all my basic technical faculties. Okay, there's the link, so you guys want to retweet that out. Any of you who are watching this, please, if you are a fan of any of us, even just a little bit, or you just don't hate us, retweet, please. Do something. Share it, go outside, scream, tell people to watch the podcast.
Yeah, because if you don't mind, I just wanted to comment on this. Like, if it's a small channel, like every single like and comment really matters. And that's kind of the cool thing about following the smaller channels is it's, I don't know. It's just
you get a lot of interaction, which you just really can't get with the bigger channels. So yes, it's like going to a local diner instead of going to Denny's. They both might give you food poisoning, but at least the local diner will probably feel bad about it. Also, they won't give you a gift card. Oh, go ahead.
I think you might need to add Prince through Hangouts if you know how to do that, because it's a phone thing. I'm thinking is the problem.
I thought I sent it to him on...
No, the link I sent him was like a shortened one because I copied it from Twitter.
Oh, did you send the one that I sent you?
Yeah, to him.
Okay.
Not to like Twitter, not to like anywhere else.
Well, no, but you're here, so obviously it works, and I've used it on a phone before, so maybe you just didn't copy the whole link.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not sure if he got it from the one I sent him, or I don't know, whatever.
Well, can you
explain all that as if everyone's really interested?
I know 2 viewers, yes, so definitely not. Just retweet the link that I sent you to him on Skype, please, and he'll have to figure it out. Okay, so without further ado, so what are we all here to talk about? So for me, the subject that I'm most interested in right now, which I think the whole internet is probably censorship, aka Count Dankula, and now with Prince's rather ridiculous community story. I believe I don't want to take the wind out of his sails, so I'll hold off on talking about it because I don't know much. He'll probably want to talk about it. But yeah, I'm assuming you both have been following the Dankula situation, like every other YouTuber.
Oh yeah, that's it.
It is 2018 is officially 1984 now. If George Orwell could come back as a zombie, this would definitely be his motivation. It's funny. I'm really just waiting for the Braveheart memes, assuming they aren't everywhere already. But come on, is there anything more obvious at this point than to have Mel Gibson giving his epic speech about Scottish people and their indomitable will for freedom, juxtaposed against the Scottish police giving out Facebook and Twitter, I believe it was Facebook, announcements about how they know who you are, they can see you, and hate crimes are not tolerable, as is my abhorrent Scottish accent. So,
my favorite is, I think, the pug out, like the "Don't Tread on Me" flag. It's the pug.
Oh God, yeah. Like, yeah. I'm not very good with GIMP yet, but I should definitely figure out if I can do that. But yeah, at the very least, pug memes. I mean, even I know those are everywhere, and I'm not super plugged into the internet. But yeah, I'm calling, or at least predicting, that Braveheart memes about this subject are unavoidable. I mean, is there any more iconic, like, just annoyingly stereotypical Scottish depiction and about freedom, no less, and a Scotsman being convicted of a hate crime for making a joke on the internet? It's just ridiculous. And unfortunately, a lot of normal people who don't spend all their time on the internet thinking and talking about this stuff just don't understand. I tried to tell my father about this, and he was like, well, they have hate crime laws, and that's, it's really not very acceptable, which is bizarre because my dad's an old hippie. I mean, he's a doctor now, so he's not that much of a hippie, but still. But it's just difficult to explain to regular people that, yes, the joke was stupid and tasteless. It's the internet. Everything is stupid and tasteless on the internet. It doesn't mean that people should be thrown in jail for being, quote, grossly offensive. I mean, that's going back to the Victorian era, where, like, if you depicted a woman with an ankle or something ridiculous, that you would be, like, immodest.
What I just love about it is that, like, in the future, like, social studies textbooks, there's going to be like a Dankula paragraph or a Dankula chapter even. Like, I love the fact that now the internet culture is, like, part of the real world. So everybody's, like, stupid, like, internet names and handles are just going to be part of history now.
It will be very interesting to see how, if at all, the Dankula section of the history book will be remembered. Let's see.
Well, in England, it might not even be remembered if the BBC's not even reporting on it.
Oh yeah, the BBC is. The BBC
they're radio
is quite.
Silence.
They're beyond radio silent. I think they're actually going out of their way to
ignore it
and possibly discredit it. America's barely noticing it outside of, like, academic circles because
or Twitter.
Well, I mean,
we're not academic.
There is nothing academic about any of these channels. I think we're lucky if we all include sources in our material, not because we don't make sense or research, but at the end of the day, if you have a YouTube channel, unless you are Christina Hoff Summers, Aiden Paladin, or Tildeer, chances are you don't have a whole lot of sources because the majority of commentary is just opinion. Because people like to go on the internet and stare at cartoon animal or pieces of bacon or Spacepan. But yes, we all like to stare at
Bacon had a shit ton of sources in his, like, last video we uploaded.
Yeah, I did.
We have
this is like holy sources.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Don't look through them too detailed. Some of them are from the Huffington Post, and I had to drink to get through using those.
Yeah,
I hate the Huffington Post, by the way.
See, like I don't post a lot of sources in my videos. I post a lot of links to kind of like related things, or a lot of it's kind of like why reinvent the wheel, right? If I've seen coverage of topics for which should be different people, and then have maybe a new view that maybe synthesizes a few of those different things, I think it's totally natural to kind of throw in. Here are things that led up to it, and then here are things that are for further study, I guess. Like I see it as like a web, and I think that's
it depends on the subject matter. Certain stories I think require a certain amount of transparency. I mean, if it's a well-known event, like if it's a Logan Paul video or something like that, you probably shouldn't be making a Logan Paul video at this point. But if you were, you don't need sources unless it was referring to a very specific thing that he did, which is actually relevant. But if you're trying to make a point about some essay or article, you probably should include at least a link to that particular article. But, it's the internet. At the end of the day, it's whether the video was good or not. Some people get a little too hung up on sources. Okay, well, so it's funny. Like without Prince here, the conversation is not quite as, it doesn't flow quite as easily because I think I can speak we can all speak pretty well, but Prince has the supreme gift of gab. So Spacepan, why don't you tell me about your page-long multi-adjective idea for us?
Oh, you mean that crazy thing I found?
Yes.
So I was really bored at work, and I was looking through articles, and this thing came up. Oh, what was it? It was like a Nigerian sex ring. I was using voodoo to intimidate people into staying, and like they liberated all these women who were like staying in squalor and like some caves in like Spain or something. And the plot twist is the whole thing was being run by like a famous DJ.
DJ Nigerian sex cult.
Not The Onion. Police bust voodoo migrant sex slave ring. I guess maybe it's semi-old. This is from February 25th, so I'm it's a little bit oldish, but crazy. I don't know how much of this we want to like actually read, but like,
well,
kind of the gist of it.
I have made contact with Prince. Apparently, the link is not. Prince is trying to get on his phone, and there's some weirdness in when you try to do that. So why don't you talk about that while I continue to try to bring our great and powerful monarch onto the channel?
I guess we could like call it and then like just like.
So why don't you screen share the article and we will see where this goes. And apparently, Bacon, your avatar is making Leox hungry, so you should probably feel some guilt for that.
No, bacon's delicious. I'm not feeling guilty for that.
Insensitive.
He didn't complain about that. I'm saying you should feel guilty about that. He just said you're making him hungry.
Oh well.
You're raising his cholesterol with all your saturated fats and monosaturated salts.
Okay.
Too much. Okay, too much nurse humor. So okay, talk about the sex cult, not about the bacon.
Yeah. So actually, the article I saw this morning was not the Breitbart one. I didn't realize this was Breitbart, but that works. Yeah. Police bust voodoo migrant sex slave ring, which forced women to eat raw chicken hearts. Ooh, I didn't hear that part. Is this a different one? This might be a different voodoo migrant sex slave ring.
Oh, because that's encouraging that there are different kinds of
this might be a different one. Wait, I'm gonna see if the DJ gets mentioned because holy shit, there's no DJ. Dude, this is totally a different one. I accidentally found a different voodoo migrant sex slave story.
I don't know
the original
I'm
one.
not sure what is more disturbing: the fact that there is a voodoo sex cult run by a DJ, or that there are multiple voodoo sex cults. Is this a Nigerian problem?
Try again.
What's up?
Try again. Voodoo sex ring migrant. Well, okay, it said Breitbart would use the term migrant. It was Nigeria, and then Spain was involved, and there was a DJ. Let's try again.
Top link, maybe.
Bloomberg? I think it was. It might have been. No, Bloomberg was a different thing. Spanish. This was it. I think this was the one. I'm gonna open this. I'm gonna take this with another tab too because you can get muted. That's no. Okay. Yeah, Spanish police bust Nigerian sex trafficking ring. Yeah, this is the one, I think. Yeah, and this is from today. Okay, so I am topical. This is from today. This is like breaking news, practically by YouTube standards. We are covering things up today, not from a whole month ago. It turns out there's an epidemic of voodoo sex rings because there's too many. Sorry. We don't need to get too political. I didn't mean to make this political. It's just like a crazy article.
What's political about a voodie sex ring cult? Like that to me.
The whole like immigration.
Our monarch has returned.
Hey, there we go.
We can see. Yeah, there we go.
Hey, do I have the correct? Oh, I do have the correct avatar. Okay.
It's linked to your Google account. So.
Yeah. No, but I have two, and this is the right one. Okay, we're live. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. That
it's okay. It was a total debacle. I couldn't even figure out how to get this is a second stream. I couldn't figure out how to get the first one working correctly. Like,
yeah, and it just happened to coincide with my my computer dying, but hey, now I know how to stream on my phone. It's not that big of a deal. But
that's how I met you.
What?
I was streaming on my phone when I first met you. I did everything on my phone.
Oh yeah. What is this? What were you guys talking about?
Spacepan. Apparently, there's more than one. Like, there's a problem with multiple voodoo sex cults.
Okay, so here's the thing: you never tell us what these are going to be about. So then during my Fridays, I'm like, well, I'll see if I can find an article or two. And I don't know. I think this came up, and I was like, this is too crazy not to mention.
Part of the onus is on you. You're supposed to be always finding things now.
Okay, we'll keep on finding. Well, this is a thing I found, and it turns out I was looking for the original one, and I accidentally found one from the month before because this is like a thing. There's multiple like voodoo migrant sex slave rings. So this one they got busted recently by Spanish police. It was like a Nigerian one that would, I think they brought him into like Libya and then across to like Italy and then into Spain. But this one was run by a DJ.
That's right up your alley, Prince. Like, you need your own personally branded voodoo sex cult.
Look at how this is written. This is so annoying. They capitalized every letter.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god!
Except for prostitution, that's uniquely like not equalized. Like they
don't want to draw too much attention to that.
Like all this is a prostitution. I don't get it.
Well, they don't want to.
Who is this? Who are you? Who wrote this? There's no name.
I consider this subject to be a success, if nothing else, for the fact that it allows me to say voodoo sex cult, which is now my officially favorite phrase. It just rolls right up. Like, that would be a great name for a channel. Hello, I'm voodoo sex cult.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose in all seriousness, though, because
it is quite sad.
This is some fucked up shit. It's great that they're rating some of this shit and shutting some of it down. So I just wanted to throw that out there so that our stream is not without that.
We're not. We are terrible people, but we are not so terrible to acknowledge the fact that sex cults are, by and large, terrible things. That usually any kind of cult is a bad thing because it is basically gaslighting with like rocket fuel. Like, you are literally distorting reality around a person to the point where they often end up isolated, doing extreme acts, and particularly if it involves go ahead, Prince.
No, I'm just keep going.
If it involves sex, you can bet many things, many body parts, that it will usually involve small children, usually young girls. I mean, there are exceptions, but the vast majority of sex cults seem to revolve around young women. I believe our favorite non-binary Ripley clone, Rose McGowan, grew up in a sex cult in Italy called Children of God or something. So
I have
them
friends that were in that cult. It's a really big one. It has lots of factions around the world.
I did not know that. That's sad.
Yeah, I had multiple friends that were in the one in Japan.
That's right. You
know.
told me about that. That's some crazy shit.
Yeah.
You have like one friend in each cult.
They were all in the one in Japan. And it's weird too because I met them in different places. Like I knew some brothers that had been in it in Seattle, and then I knew 2 different people that were in it in the San Francisco Bay Area. Well, actually, 2 of them were brothers, and then this one other guy that they met that coincidentally had been in it. Yeah, no, they're a big old franchise, I guess, apparently.
Well, at that part, then it's probably about the money and the sex.
I just want to say I love this comment on this article. Lock the DJ and other culprits into a prison.
Into a prison.
I liked it. DJ, you're on point. Oh, one thing too. Obligatory MRA comment. These are alleged perpetrators. Okay. So
well, they have to say alleged because if there's not absolute proof, they could get sued for libel. I learned that from Tim Pool, which is why he prefaces all of his statements with alleged or this is my opinion, because otherwise lawyers. Zarlo 5899 has informed us that voodoosexcult.com is an actual website.
Good to know. I mean, you didn't know?
I didn't know. I'm going to check it out right now. Voodoo Sex Cult.
Also, I found out why this article is written all stupidly. It's a transcript. So I guess we're just seeing the psychological biases of the person who typed it. Just they don't capitalize prostitution, and they didn't capitalize this single instance of the word for. Everything else was capitalized. The end. Okay, I think that covers all the most important things about this Nigerian sex trafficking ring.
Oh my god, voodoosexcult.com. It's unsurprisingly, it appears to be a porno. Okay, let's not go there. Let's see. Oh wait, no, it's not porn, but it's not suitable for work. So yes. All right. Hey Prince. So I did briefly fill the few viewers that we had lost and got back. About your situation. Is that something that you want to talk about?
My situation, my laptop died. It's not really a big deal. I should be able to get my new computer up and working within the next few days. I am, the worst thing about it, for the most part, I didn't really have anything on that laptop. It's all saved in YouTube, so unless my channel gets deleted within the next, couple days, actually, that laptop was like way out of memory, and oh god, sorry, I don't know why I just took a bite of a chip mid-sentence.
You wish to share the carbohydrates with us virtually.
Yeah, so that laptop was like totally out of memory, and it had been for a long time. And I had this PC, but I didn't have all of the components to actually like get it up and running. So I was procrastinating on setting it up because I didn't have to. And then, of course, the laptop actually dies, but it's kind of cool because then I can get my PC set up and then I can download all of my videos and have it on a place that has a lot more storage, so I can make sure that the videos, if my channel gets nuked, then I'll still have the videos. What else should I really even say? I don't know. It'll take. Oh, the worst thing that I lost though was yesterday's video, and that's annoying. Because yesterday's video was particularly good, and granted, I can recreate it. I can re-engineer this video. I remember exactly, basically what I said. but I did a pretty good job executing it.
You're afraid of
And
losing some of the magic.
well, it was about 16 minutes long too. It's fucking annoying. That
takes
And
forever.
yeah, I mean, yes and no. Maybe I'll make a better version this time. I don't know, but it was about something that Saint of Bacon had already made a video sort of talking about, which is and we've talked about this. Like, I don't know if we talked about it on air. I don't remember. I don't remember all the things that I talk about on streams and stuff.
You talk to so many people on so many streams.
There's been a lot of streams and a lot of Skype calls over the past couple of weeks, is what I'm going to say. And one of the things that I've talked about with people is this drug-resistant strains of HIV and people catching HIV while being on the PrEP pill, and how I always saw this coming, and it's not simply so much that I always figured like maybe that was going to happen, but it's even a little bit more diabolical than that, and it took me a while to like really piece this together, but this was in my subconscious. Have you guys ever heard the conspiracy theory about how AIDS is a man-made disease and they gave it to gay men to test it on human specimen?
Yes. Oh, I thought it was to kill black people.
Well, no. Okay.
It was.
I think that what it was.
Africa.
I think that they. Okay, so I think that the conspiracy theory goes like this. They created AIDS to be a population control thing. Like, I think that was sort of like. People are saying that allegedly, the government or some shit created HIV and AIDS. They found some monkeys that had this disease, and then they bred this disease in monkeys, and then they wanted to see if it was going to work in humans. And it was supposed to be for population control, which, I mean, I guess maybe that. If this theory is true, it seems to maybe have worked a little. And they needed to see if it worked on humans, but you can't really just test it on humans. So they gave it to gay men by way of a vaccine that was supposed to be for hepatitis B, and they distributed it in New York City in the late 1970s, is according to this conspiracy theory. And basically the conspiracy theory goes like, yeah, they did it to gay men because nobody cares about gay men. And I don't know if that's true or not, but when I heard it, being that, you know, I don't fucking trust anything about the government at all, ever. Like, I have that kind of paranoia thing about me. I'm just that kind of person. I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe that was true. I've always kind of thought that maybe that was true. And so all of a sudden they have this new vaccine and they're trying, and it wasn't simply that they were, you know, suggesting.
When you talk about fucking, the vaccine, are you talking about Truvada?
Yeah, I'm talking about, yeah. And it was the same kind of thing where it was like there was all sorts of advertising for this, and there was like the Truvada horror t-shirts, and like every time I went and saw a doctor, the doctors were trying to get me to go on it. They're like, so are you having sex? And I'm like, sure. And they're like, okay, will you go on Truvada? Will you go on Truvada? And I'm like, huh. And I was like, I'll think about it. And I came to the conclusion in my head. I was like, okay, I don't think I want to go on this, because they tell you that you're supposed to go on it and use condoms, and that's great and everything, but I know myself. Once upon a time, when I was about 12 years old, I told myself I was only going to do natural drugs like pot and mushrooms. That didn't last. And so, you know, I'm not going to like go on this pill that's going to supposedly, you know, like, I can kind of not use condoms, but I'm still supposed to use condoms and blah, blah. No. I got to like not go on the pill, because otherwise I'm just never going to use condoms. And that was sort of, and then also like, I'm not entirely sure that this pill is going to work long term. So the video is about 16 minutes long of me telling that story for the normies and everything, and I lost the whole thing, so that kind of sucks.
Yeah, that is sad. It's not. Yeah, I mean, I actually used PrEP for a while when I had insurance, because that's one of the things about it is it's very, very expensive. It's not really a vaccine per se. Some people do. Oh yeah, no, I know you do. I'm speaking to the audience. It's more of a prophylactic. It's kind of like, in a way, it's sort of like the opposite of antibiotics. You take antibiotics to rid yourself of pernicious bacteria. Well, you take Truvada basically as an inoculant to prevent your body from contracting the HIV virus, and it's supposed to be 99% effective.
It's dropped down to 86%.
Yeah, it's
that
86 now.
Yeah, that's really troubling. But yeah, I have always been an advocate of condom usage, and not even just for the sake that, yes, Truvada could only protect you from HIV, couldn't protect you from, gonorrhea, syphilis, chlamydia, HPV, all of the many and wonderful things that like to inhabit people's orifices and travel onto genitals. I think I may have mentioned before, I have a very simple reason why I always use a condom, because unless I see you use an enema right in front of me, there's no chance that I am going to change the color of my penis, because that is when I was younger and I had one of my earlier experiences. I was at a rest stop cruising pre-Grinder days, and afterwards the guy clearly had not cleaned properly, and thank God I was wearing a condom, because otherwise I probably would have cut my penis off. As it was, I couldn't get hard for a week afterwards because I was so traumatized.
Yeah, I had a similar experience with that. I think it was my first or second time with a guy that happened, and I'm like, yeah, I'm never gonna not wear a condom.
It's like it's a glove, and you wear rubber gloves when you handle things that you don't want to get directly on your hand. I tend to think the penis is the same way, but you all do you.
Well, in that case, I'm not just doing me; I'm doing someone else.
So, I feel the need to mention that Zarlo has made a website about the Gaytriarchy. It is Gaytriarchy.xyz, and but it's got all three of us on there and links to.
Oh, cool! I love that.
Yeah,
I'm stoked for that.
Thank you. I am.
Oh my God, we have our I was listening to Karen Strawn on V's channel.
I was listening to that too. Oh my God, I have the same story you have about like making a video and then like, well, in my case, I told Allison I made the video and then she was like, "That's not," and I was like, "Okay, fine." So I just like have it. Well, and I was really conflicted about it too. Like I kind of sat over it. The other weird thing.
No, okay. I have no. Hey, Derek? How about I fucking talk? Jesus. Okay. So, I has nothing to do with anything having to do with me and the honey badgers and any of our relationship. It's just I was listening to her talk to V about their finances and their organization and how exactly. Wait, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry, because my my phone just the screen turned off, and so I was listening to them talk about their organization and how it formed and everything, and like who does what and everything. And there's the they all have their own individual kind of talents that they're unique at, and it turns out that like Brian tends to work on more of the production end and everything, and so maybe it's gonna develop to the point where we do have somebody who is our web developer and is like networking and doing that. I don't know, it'd be cool, and I guess these things happen organically.
I actually bought a domain name on a a drunken and angry whim the other night. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it because I have it, but then it's all I have is like this Squarespace trial thing, and but I don't have the technical experience to do anything other than to make a shell, and I don't know quite how to use it the way I want to, so I have to talk to people. But yes, noban.me is my website, but I have not quite figured out how to use it. And I killed the conversation.
I'm chewing. I'm personally chewing.
Oh, he's masticating on air, everyone. All three of you.
There was a comment anti made in the chat I wanted to read. Just that sounds like the CIA with the black community and meth, like in regards to like the government conspiracy with AIDS or whatever. And I think that's where I got the idea that it was like targeted at black people. But I think I also heard that about AIDS. So
the interesting, that was one thing I meant to talk about, and then I got distracted. So the interesting thing about AIDS, well, because really it's AIDS is just the later development of HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, or human immunovirus. I got the acronym wrong, but anyway, they believe that it is directly descended from simian immune virus, like basically the monkey equivalent of AIDS and of HIV rather. And it is entirely possible that it happened naturally, just because the African people do eat monkey meat, and it is entirely possible for a virus to jump from one species to another, hence mad cow disease. But the wrinkle in that is that African people have been eating monkey meat for a very long time, and to our knowledge, this virus is new. But again, records from that time are kind of sketchy, and it is interesting, like Prince's theory has talked about, how it sort of just cropped up. It showed up rather quickly, it seems. Now, it's entirely possible. Yes, there is also a feline AIDS. There are quite a few number of sexually transmitted and immunocompromising viruses in the animal kingdom, particularly amongst mammals, because of our biology. So it's all very interesting, but all very inconclusive. Yeah, I kind of yeah, so I had it's no problem, but we're floundering, Prince. Yeah, so I had started with I totally get it. I started with the whole Dankula situation because everyone has to talk about Dankula 1984 and whatnot, and that's actually kind of what inspired.
There's a new thing, huh?
There's a new thing. Oh, okay.
Let me put the thing back in my mouth.
No. Well,
there's some sort of a. Did you guys get that weird email? Or no, you guys aren't YouTube partners. Mm-hmm. So you probably
rub it in our face, Prince.
Well, no, because it was only sent to YouTube partners, but it had something to do with some sort of EU crap that they were talking about, and I honestly, it was like, did you get it?
I did get that. I did get that. I skimmed it.
I didn't get it. I was like, what are they even talking about? Oh my god, I'm gonna have to listen to some video where somebody who understands this explains it, because I don't get it.
They probably, who's probably going to talk about it if they haven't already, is that, do you ever watch the channel YouTuber Law?
I've seen it once or twice.
He's not the most entertaining person, but, he's a lawyer and he's very in-depth.
I can get into that.
I bet you he is, I bet you he's going to talk about it. If I had to guess, just based on what I know about what's going on right now, is that the EU has been trying to corral not just their own people, but particularly American big tech and the internet at large. It started with that ridiculous right to be forgotten. Now they've got their ever-broadening hate speech guidelines. So if I had to guess, it probably has something to do with if you violate, X EU guideline on this or that, you must take it down, or whatever that you won't be able to view in this part of. I don't know. They'll probably take your channel down, or like send like a drone to strike you down or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or actually stop it. Will show up and take me away.
Yeah. Did you guys ever see that short film about killer drones that someone made, like about little personal size, like basically kamikaze drones, and what the world will be like?
No.
What's that Black Mirror episode counts?
I should.
Oh yeah, with the little bees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of. God, that episode's so good. That episode's like, it's basically a movie as a standalone thing. Like,
yeah,
that's probably the best.
Okay, so it's called Slaughterbots. It was a film made by a think tank showing, like, with technology that we currently have, how dangerous the technology of killer drones would be. It's actually quite interesting. Should we put it on? Or is that not how it works? Like, are we not allowed to watch other channels and just? Well,
it's probably not a good idea, and I can't watch it on my phone anyway.
Oh, that's
streaming,
right.
So.
Well, anyway, yeah. Like, you should check out Slaughterbots, because it's quite terrifying. Basically, they show, like, at the point where drones become inexpensive enough to be mass produced with the technology that we have now. So, like, 10 years or something, a future where anyone with like more than $100 could purchase a drone that is sophisticated enough to figure out who you are and just kamikaze into you with a small shaped explosive, and that are small enough and maneuverable enough to get in through basically any opening, whether it's a air vent or wherever. There would be very little that any government or any group could do to stop other groups, and so we'd all have to live inside basically all the time. So kind of like now, only with the actual threat of real death, not just Twitter death.
Huh.
Scary.
Well, we gotta learn to get along, I guess.
Yeah, the ultimate demonetization. Death. You have been banned from existence.
See, okay. My thing about... I have always been very optimistic about the information age. Like, I've always thought that it would be kind of like, it would be difficult. There'd be growing pains, but then we'd be better for it. And like, the world would actually be a lot more harmonious because people would have to learn to get along with each other and share resources better and blah, 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 blah. But I think that I had that largely because my father was a computer scientist. Like, he actually was for well over 30 years. He was a professor for 30 years, but then after he retired, he worked at he still worked as a computer scientist, and had been a computer scientist before he got his doctorate. He was working with computers. So he always, sort of talked about the world in terms of the world eventually becoming run by computers. Like, I was raised with that vision in my head. So it's hard for me to imagine a world where all of this just goes horribly, horribly wrong someday. Because I had been oh, I'm echoing all of a sudden. Okay, maybe not anymore.
Not anymore, no.
No.
There's a weird hum in the background. Are you near an air conditioner?
No.
Oh.
I'm not.
Well, then maybe it's just my headphones. Never mind, sorry.
Okay. So I had been kind of I don't know, I guess, okay, just these weird moments would happen in my life when I was being raised. I learned how to use computers in the mid 1980s. I learned, like on one of those Fat Macs when I was like 5, and most adults didn't know how to use computers. And then I wasn't interested in them really. It's not like I actually really liked them. I liked video games a lot, but I didn't really like the computers themselves. I just thought of them as something that was around me. And then, but then I also learned the internet, and I understood the internet kind of at a very early age, but I didn't actually get into it very much. And but I would have these conversations about my dad, and with my dad about the internet and the changing face of the world, and we would talk about like Big Brother and stuff, like when I was pretty little, like maybe 10 or so. And he would be like, so a lot of people say that this 1984, which I hadn't even read, but he would talk to me about it anyway because my dad was weird. Like,
and then I bring it up to you almost every episode that we talk to.
Yeah, and that's one of the other things. I've never felt like I had to read this book with my dad being who he was, basically.
You still should, but
yeah. I know, but it was one of those things where like I had heard about it for so fucking long through not just my dad, but from my sister, and
it's everywhere.
Yeah, but if it's like if your dad is one of the people that shaped the internet, like when I was a kid, here's the thing. When I was a kid, there was a day that my dad had to give me a talking to, telling me that if there was ever a package delivered to the house that seemed the least bit suspicious, or I think even a package at all, that I am never allowed to open any packages because of the fact that it might be from the Unabomber.
Oh my goodness.
Because the Unabomber's thing was that he hated technology and he was trying to kill all the computer scientists.
That's right, he was a Luddite.
Yeah, so my dad was one of the people that, shaped the internet in a lot of ways. And for me growing up, I didn't really talk to my dad a whole bunch. Like he was kind of like always on his computer, and I was always playing video games and watching cable television, and we just sort of ignored each other for the most part. But like when he would drive me places, like he would like to drive me to school instead of me taking the bus, because he would get a chance to talk to me a little bit. And so we'd have conversations. And one of the things that we would talk about would be just, the world, and we'd have these like semi-philosophical discussions. And one of the things that I remember coming up was Big Brother and how things are going to adapt in the future. Like, how are we going to deal with a world where we can communicate with each other so easily that it's practically like we're all watching each other? Like, what's going to happen if not only are you watching something on television, but the television's watching you back? What is it going to be like then? And he asked me that when I was really little, like only like 10 or so, maybe 12, but, like before you would expect a kid to actually have that conversation. My actual father was really asking me that. And I was thinking to myself, my response to him was, well, let me think about that for a second. I guess, honestly, it'll just force everyone to be honest, because, ultimately, it'll force a different standard, and the world will adapt, because it's like if there's no more secrets, if everybody does things that are wrong, right? So literally everybody will be accountable for their negative actions, and the police won't have time to enforce every stupid crime that everybody commits. Like things like minor drug offenses, the police will have to stop caring about because they will have better things to worry about, and there'll just be a new list of priorities. It won't be that everybody gets in trouble for every little thing that they do, but rather the world will have to recreate the rules based around this new notion of honesty and based around what is actually harming people, and it will actually be an improvement. And my dad was like, good answer, that's what I think. Basically. So yeah, like we're going through one of these weird times where it's really, really rough, but I don't see a negative outcome. You know, like fucking hell, Angela Merkel, give up already.
I really hope you're right. I mean, it is encouraging, I guess, in a kind of perverse way, that although there are some ugly sides to nationalist movements, I have to say, even though growing up I believed that nationalism was basically the other N-word, I'm not all that impressed with what globalism has been doing. So I don't know. Maybe I guess it's a natural consequence to the Angela Merkels and the crazy Swedish feminists, and now Theresa. I don't know if it's Theresa May explicitly, but so much of the stuff going on in the UK. Yeah, the EU. I always thought the EU is scarier than China in many ways, because China is very easy to point out when they're doing something wrong because they don't bother hiding it. But the EU inveigles everything it does in, tolerance and multiculturalism and enrichment, but they are way more aggressive about trying to export their vision to the rest of the world. China's basically, we have our firewall, we do things our way in China, don't fuck with us or you won't get any free shit from us. Europe is more like, well, we're Europe. We do things the right way. You don't do them that way? Well, fine. Not only can you not do business with us, but we're going to sue you and harass you and make sure that you do what we want, or everyone's going to pay for it figuratively and literally. And by the way, we'll ban you from our country.
Yeah, it's very, very strange. And the thing is, I feel like the EU needs, well, no, that's not entirely true. No, I would say that the EU is collapsing. Angela Merkel just doesn't really know. I think she just doesn't know what to do. I think that honestly, she never really figured out that communism doesn't work. Like, I think that that's just my. I like to drastically simplify geopolitical leaders into scripts that I would have written in not in college, but it all just becomes a big play that I am maybe going to write someday in my head, and the person has to have a rather the type of motive that you could make clear in 90 minutes. And to me, Angela Merkel's motive, like by the end of the fucking play, her deal was simply that she was a goddamn communist when she was, in the 1960s or whenever she was in college, and she never got over it. And she pretended to, but secretly wanted to turn all of Europe into a big communist state slyly, without really saying that that's what she was doing. And she figured that that would be some sort of stepping stone of making the whole world that way, and it's sort of not working out in her favor. Things are there's all these problems, but she doesn't want to admit it because she wants to keep the dream alive.
I just thought of in listening to you describe that as a play, I had actually pictured a small play that I thought would be really interesting. Definitely if you wrote it, but just in general, to see like Angela Merkel and Hillary Clinton meet in a coffee shop.
Mhm.
I don't know. To me, like, it seems like that's a conversation that you could go so many different ways.
I like the
Well,
idea of
you know
all
what would be
of them
funny?
together. I want to see like an undergraduate where they're all like an undergraduate in college together.
Yeah, that would
Putin
be funny.
and Trump
Mm.
and Jeb Bush, my favorite.
The other thing that would be funny would be to have like different little versions where like the version where Hillary Clinton actually won, the real life version, the version where Brexit didn't happen and Hillary Clinton won, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm. Different outcomes, different
yeah,
possibilities.
Oh, that'd be
like some sort of a multiverse.
Yeah, no. Coming back to my beloved Star Trek, they had that. They had several episodes that dealt with parallel universes. But
Tasha
probably,
Yar.
oh god, yes, Tasha Yar.
Yeah.
But no, even better than that was I forget the name of the episode now. But there was an episode where Worf went through an anomaly. Hashtag. My favorite thing about anomalies on Star Trek is that they happen every episode, so they're really more like regularities. But anyway, so yeah, Worf
Yeah.
goes through some sort of subspace anomaly, and it causes him to come unstuck in the multiverse. They call it quantum reality because I think DC would sue them or something. But basically, every time he got near Geordi, his visor would push him into a different parallel universe. But only Worf would realize that anything had changed. And so every few minutes, something weird would happen. Like Worf would be talking to Troy, and then the next minute she'd be wearing a different dress, or he'd be talking to Picard, or like Picard was dead in the next moment. It was super interesting.
I've watched every single episode of TNG, but I don't remember it. I don't remember that one specifically for some reason.
Have you guys ever watched
saw
Farscape?
Nope.
Farscape. Oh yes, it was such a good show. No, but it's very, 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 very good. In my opinion, the absolute best science fiction show to come out recently would have to be the reboot of Battlestar Galactica.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're
I
all
loved it.
wonderful. Oh god, this has all happened before, and it will happen again.
I've been including that in videos recently. I actually put
it
in the video that I
saw it.
lost.
I was so excited
the one that I
when
made
saw
yesterday.
you did
that
too?
I didn't get. Yeah, it was in there again, and then I didn't get it.
It's such a great show. I mean, they're all fantastic in different ways. Star Trek: The Next Generation was amazing. One of the greatest lost gems of science fiction that I don't think many people remember, except for uber nerds like me. Have any of you seen Babylon 5?
Nope.
Oh, I remember it, but I didn't get into it. People liked it a lot, though.
There's a reason for it.
On TV.
It was really, really different. It was super ahead of its time. So it's old now. It's so old. It's like almost 30 years old now. But the amazing thing is it really has aged very well considering how old it is. I mean, some of the dialogue, well, actually, no, the dialogue is quite good because it's written by J. Michael Straczynski, who does a lot of comic books. But basically, in a nutshell, what made it different was it was the first time that someone had tried to make a science fiction show on a low budget with a continuous multi-season story arc. Like it was written like a novel with a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it was done on a low budget with story at the forefront. And it was fascinating because it was more or less completely serious. There were no children, there were no throwaway gags in it. It was just and it was trying to be very realistic. It was about a space station that was being used as sort of like, you know, the intergalactic UN, but it wasn't like Star Trek where everyone was like hunky-dory. No, people hated each other. The alien races were constantly on the brink of war. They had prejudice. There was racism, sex, drug use. Like it was absolutely phenomenal. And then it was woven together with a bunch of different threads came together with this overarching story that lasted 5 years, and it was just amazing. The special effects are quite dated now, but they were never super realistic to begin with. They were always just sort of, yes, Feral Cat, we are all Kosh. Feral Cat, I love you. But that is from Babylon 5, obviously. But yeah, the writing, so good. The special effects were a bit strange because they were just 3D animation. Like, they look like 3D animation, but they're very pretty. So even though you watch them now and you can totally tell that they're artificial, it's basically, if you treat them like you're seeing animation as opposed to, like, you know, models or an attempt to simulate reality, it's quite beautiful. So you should definitely check it out.
I always my favorite sci-fi in the last 20 years is the Ghost in the Shell standalone complex.
I love the introduction. I can't follow the storylines.
Oh yeah, nobody ever can. What?
I mean, that is like it is really good. The opening.
Yeah, no. The thing is, the thing about Ghost in the Shell is that almost nobody can ever follow it. You generally have to watch each episode twice. And you, I always would feel really smart if I did know absolutely everything that went on in an entire episode.
And then you find out years later that you completely misunderstood it.
You can't. I wouldn't necessarily say that, but I watched it at my peak of smartness. It came out when I was, I believe, 22, 23, and I had just graduated from script writing school, and it was during a period when I probably drank maybe 2 or 3 times a week, and then I would smoke pot a lot, and I was really good at following storylines because I had graduated in script writing, and that's what I did.
And when you're high, you either wander or you just follow obsessively with the inability to think of anything else.
Yeah, and it was kind of like that. And so I watched a lot of Cartoon Network because I had cable.
You watched a lot of Cowboy Bebop, I bet.
I watched a little bit of it.
Well, you should watch the whole thing.
My roommate,
you gotta watch all of Bebop.
I guess I should. I don't know. My roommate had cable. He gave me a whole TiVo box that I got.
I remember those.
Yeah, it was like this thing where you could record a lot of cable television for some. I don't know. So I had that, and it
was super advanced when we were still recording everything on VHS tapes. For those of you old enough to remember.
It was like the Netflix of, before Netflix.
It was.
Yeah. So I started recording. I saw 1 or 2 episodes of Ghost in the Shell, and he was like, yeah, you should use this thing. And I was like, well, I don't really watch TV. And he was like, well, you could. And I probably mostly didn't, but that was one of the only shows that I ended up, I think, watching every single one of. Or at least close to every single one of. And it's so incredibly cool. Like, you guys, anybody who hasn't seen this, really, really go back and don't expect to follow everything like the first time. But if you don't quite follow it, watch the episode again, and once you do follow it, you'll be like, oh, this is really, really, really cool. So it takes place in the year 2034, and it's in Tokyo, but it's in the world that exists there is there's, I think, about 4 different innovations that shape the universe, which are AIs, and then cyborgs. So the people, humans actually are largely cybergenic. There's very, very few people that are just 100% human. And then just robots in general, and then there is cyberbrain technologies. And the cyberbrain technologies are basically the internet mixed with, you can just automatically use the internet with your brain. You don't actually have to type anything necessarily. And the plot of the show follows around a secret police force that most people don't know exists, and they can do all of these kind of like super high trained things, and they're all not all of them, but the woman, the one that's played by Scarlett Johansson in the movie, she is a really, really good hacker. And she's a cyborg also. The only thing about her that is human is her brain. She was actually, in the plot of the show, she was rescued as a her mother was pregnant with her and was gassed in some sort of a terrorism attack where there was like nerve gas or something put onto the bus, and so everybody died except for they found that the unborn baby was still alive, and they managed to save it and put the brain in a cyborg body, and they had never done that before. And so they raised this entire baby with, different, as the brain grew, different bodies for it. And so this entire person existed by way of, like, it had never known pain the way a normal person would, and like all these weird things. And so she ends up being like this super, super good hacker. And the first season of the show revolves around this this character called the Laughing Man, and the Laughing Man is a cyber criminal. And he's a really, really good hacker, to the point where he held hostage some sort of CEO. The CEO was being interviewed in the middle of Tokyo by a news camera or something like that. And, there were all sorts of cameras everywhere. And this Laughing Man guy managed to hack into literally all of the cameras, to the point. And then he blipped out his own face with this image of a Laughing Man logo, and everyone can look this up on the internet. Look up Laughing Man, and you can find it's this kind of a internet lore especially within hacking crowds. It's this legendary image, and if somebody has Laughing Man logo as their default photo anywhere, that person is probably fairly smart, is what I'll tell you. So the Laughing Man, he obscured his face, and nobody knew who he was, and he held this CEO on hostage. And so the Section 9, this secret police force, started trying to investigate him because they're trying to figure out what's going on with him. And they, as time goes on during the season, I don't want to really give too much away, and I don't really remember it that well anyway, and you guys should all watch it, but they realize that he's not a bad guy. Like, he's not actually, so in hacking, there's, I guess there's the white hats, which are good hackers, and they do good things, and then there's gray hats, which are mercenaries, and there's black hats, which are bad guys. He would be a white hat, they figure out. And they're trying to figure out his motive. And it's really, really cool. Really fucking cool.
Does it have anything to do with the movie?
The original movie?
Yes.
So, yeah.
Okay, that's really all I wanted to know.
I mean,
because I've seen a couple of the standalone movies, but they don't make any sense to me whatsoever. I've tried watching them before. But
yeah, the first movie...
Evangelion all over again.
Oh my god. Let's not even talk about Evangelion. I'm still recovering from that.
The first movie is kind of boring. It honestly it mostly really just
They brought anime
introduces.
to the West.
No, it mostly just introduces the premise of the universe to the audience. So it kind of has a plot, but mostly it's just like, what if the world was like this? And
It's very
and then it's over.
it's very atmospheric. I mean, as a film, it's beautiful, and it's great
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
don't need any context.
Yeah, no, I like it all right and everything, but it's I think that I saw the first movie when I was in high school before I understood it. Like I didn't really follow it. And I wasn't expecting it to be what it was. Like I kind of was hoping for a little bit more of an action thing and a little bit less of a philosophical thing, and so I just didn't really follow it. Um, uh, if you watch the first Ghost in the Shell movie, it's like, okay, what if the world was like this, and that's cool and everything. And then Standalone Complex, the series, basically takes that universe that the movie explains to you and actually makes a plot out of it.
We'll definitely have to sit down and rewatch that.
I like it. I like it even better than Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Okay then.
I had a nerd asthma attack.
Well, I mean, I'm a Stargate fan, so meh.
SG-1.
All of them excluding Universe.
Yeah,
I'll
Universe.
be back.
Yeah, I was super into SG-1, but about I don't know. I think about season 10, I was in college and I didn't have DVR, and then I came back and I was like, oh, General Hammond is gone. Oh, Richard Dean Anderson is the general now. Oh, the guy from Farscape is here. And I just could not for the life of me get into Atlantis. And Universe was like, no.
Universe was meh. I can understand why they canceled it.
It's like it was a show that just would not die. And I mean, it was good for a very, very long time, but nothing stays good forever. And I think the only person who actually wanted to stay on that show forever was probably Amanda Tapping and was Christopher Judge or whatever his name, was he on the other ones too, or is it just Amanda Tapping?
Christopher Judge guested in Atlantis a couple times, but that was it. And then the guy that played McKay was in Universe, I think, twice.
See, I could never get into Stargate because Farscape ruined it because of Ben Browder and Claudia Black. Like, you just see them as the Farscape people. I don't know. I can't get over that. I never really tried though.
I've never watched Farscape, so I wouldn't know.
Farscape is quite amazing. If nothing else, Farscape was amazing because of the Jim Henson Company and the amazing production design. There were some
puppets were like the biggest characters in that show.
They were. The only thing that I really was kind of, I don't want to say salty, but I was really disappointed when Zahn left the show. But I guess that had more anything to do with like Virginia Hay, I think her name was. God, we are nerding out hard on this one. This is not the Gaytriarchy right now. This is like the gay nerd triarchy.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking that. I was explaining the show to people that have never seen it before in a way. But if we go too much into like the details of like specific characters, like that's going to get really boring because I can't even follow that. But if we could steer back towards Gaytriarchy type. I was actually I had within the last week or two. I definitely didn't bring this up last time. I had a little bit of a blowout, not blowout, but I got into one of my patented Facebook arguments that I used to get into a lot more commonly, but I stopped largely because I got unfriended and blocked by so many people, and then also largely just because I got burnt out on being in the trenches in Facebook arguing with people. It just got tiring. Yeah, it got tiring, and also there was a certain point where I wasn't arguing because I cared to argue with these people. I knew I was arguing because I wanted to gather material for videos.
Oh
And
yeah. That's
and
not good.
yeah, and it's like it might as well have been bum fights at that point. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh god.
so I knew I was doing it, and it was getting kind of tired, and I stopped. But
You hit rock bottom.
I this time, what happened was I noticed, and this is something that I've been hearing more and more, because remember, I still have well over 1,000 friends on Facebook, and most of them are gay men.
You have
And
many birds and many trees.
I had within about 50 people of 2,000 before I decided I was sick of, intersectional feminist social justice people, and so I started speaking my mind. So I know a lot of these people, and I had been noticing this really over the past 6 months. Have I really been hearing about it? Maybe a year. Have I really? But like, there's been entire articles about it. But really, within the past 6 months, people are starting to say this is a real problem, which is the meth crisis.
Oh god.
And
yes.
yeah, and it's not like something where it's like, I think it's kind of like an exponential thing where all of a sudden, okay, so depending upon the crowd that you roll with in gay land, it's not hard to find guys that do cocaine. And especially if you're in the actual big urban mecca type places. Like if you're in New York, San Francisco, LA, Seattle, Portland, it's really not that hard to find a few guys that do cocaine. It won't be everybody. It will, and there will be people who kind of frown upon it and everything. But if you're hanging out with like the hipsters and shit, like, don't be surprised if some of them either ask if anyone knows where to get any, or maybe says that they want to like do some with you or something. You know what I mean? Like, that's just sort of how it is. And I don't do that kind of thing anymore. I did used to, like, I will admit, and I probably will never do it again. And if for no other reason than the fact that I drink so rarely that even when I just drink, I get kind of obnoxious. And so if you want to see me really fucking obnoxious, it would be to drink and do cocaine. I would just be a horribly obnoxious person that would embarrass the crap out of myself. And now I have some sort of weird reputation to protect where people actually judge me. Whereas before I was just a crazy musician and people already expected me to be kind of crazy. But anyhow, that sort of cocaine was a constant presence in the gay reality, and you could just assume that it would be there. But cocaine tends to lead to meth in a few cases, just because it's cheaper and it lasts longer. But apparently, what must have happened over the past 6 months to a year, and I don't really know why, is that the meth just exploded, and now it's just everywhere. And guys are like, yeah, I don't know what, and everybody thinks it's their own city. They're like, oh my god, yeah, it's so bad here. I don't know what the deal is, blah blah blah. But they're like, no, it's really bad in my city too. No, mine too. And I think that somehow it just happened, and so that's a whole issue that I want to learn more about, and I want to try to I want to try to do ongoing research, try to get experts, maybe onto this podcast if it's possible. I reached out to a recovery thing for gay men, a meth recovery thing, but they didn't email me back. Because
I know.
yeah.
I would say I know plenty of, well, not plenty. I know several people who have experience with it, but they're not exactly professionals, and yeah,
You
they're
keep
just 12-step
cutting
people.
out, and I keep missing words from you.
Oh, so is this better?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I was saying I know some people, but they're not terribly interesting or even that smart, so I can do some more research
I
and
think
see if
that
I
it
can
happened
find
again,
people.
and I missed a word.
I can try to find some people that are not just 12-step clones that actually have something interesting to say.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually, some of the people who work at the Twin Cities Men's Center or volunteer for it, I could ask a few of them too if they'd be interested or something. The other thing, too, the whole fentanyl crisis and the prescription pain medication, a lot of it is actually all really tied together. There's a presentation that talked about how like people who have hard labor jobs often, get prescribed pain medications and get addicted that way, and that there's kind of a multiple. It goes from both angles, and that people are kind of like it's some of column A and column B, so.
Yeah, the problem with the opioid crisis is that the reason it becomes such a problem is because a lot of people are just kind of ignorant into the way that opioids work. They become accustomed to them, and if your pain is severe enough, it may not necessarily be enough. But the other problem is that once people figure out that there is an intoxicating aspect to opioids, they can start doubling or tripling up on them. And then eventually they run out of their prescription, and then they start buying them on the streets because they need it.
Yeah. Well, regardless, so I want to devote more time into actually addressing the gay meth epidemic, because
I agree.
Yeah, because it's an actual issue, and it's something that there could be awareness raised for, just in general. And I don't want the Gaytriarchy to strictly just be attacking feminism, though. I obviously want to spend a lot of time doing that. But men's rights advocates get accused of not really doing anything, and they get accused of that very, very commonly. It's a ridiculously, it's a trope actually at this point. But one of the things is that with gay men, they're like, I feel like I do have a few solutions that are so tangible for in terms of like just some advice that I think would make gay men happier. And I want to have a little bit of a chance to talk about those in general. Regardless, I was still talking about the Facebook thread, and we got a little bit of a sidetrack. So these guys were talking about it, and they're saying, geez, I think that this is really a problem, and I wonder what we can do. And everyone's like, yeah, it's really a problem in my city too. Yeah, it's really a problem in my city. And so I pointed out, I was like, hey, I would like to just add that this is, I keep hearing this over and over. Every guy, apparently every city, same story. Hundreds and hundreds of gay men ruining themselves, destroying their fucking lives, getting HIV, committing suicide, overdosing, wrecking their lives, wrecking their communities, gay men. And there should be a bunch of support for this. Like, we should be handling this problem. And yet here we are just sitting here whining like, oh, this is a real problem. But like, there are gay nonprofits. There are things that are supposed to be for this. Why aren't they getting anything done? And
can I chime in on this? I know I'm going to spill the beans on what Katz and I are doing, but they'd rather give their money to like the SPLC and Media Matters and actually help. because
Yeah, he's done some great research on this.
Really?
More
Yeah.
than I even know.
Yeah,
More than I even know what to do.
They
with,
give
like,
their
so-
money to Media Matters.
Yeah, there's this one group called Horizons Foundation in San Francisco. They gave $60,000 to Media Matters.
What a
Or-
bunch of cunts! Fuck that!
Oh, here's the kicker. There's 7 organizations that deal with mental health in the Bay Area. They got 70,000 between all 7 of them.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I want to fly down there. You tell me who is the head of that fuck. I will track them down. And I will not attack them. I will find some sort of public speaking event that they are at. And I will be that guy that gets up and asks a really, really awkward question. And I might get removed. And I'll say, don't tase me, bro. And it'll be worth it.
Yeah, Bacon.
No, because Media Matters is so fucked up. I mean, the SPLC is so fucked up, but like Media Matters is maybe even creepier if you actually learn about what they do. It is like Media Matters. Okay, so Fox News and whatever, I don't know, fucking Rush Limbaugh or whatever, they kind of, tend to say the same stuff or whatever. Media Matters, if you've noticed that the CNN, the New York Times, and then, like every other major supposedly reputable outlet that stopped being reputable by the end of 2015 at the fucking very, very latest. And then the entire blogosphere, all of social media, what is considered fake news, what isn't considered fake news, blah, 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 blah. Who decides? And also, why is it that, like, some fucking fake ass news story will come out like, oh my god, there's all these misogynist game players that call themselves gamers and they're rallying under a group called Gamergate and it's harassing women. It's a hate campaign. Why does an article about that literally come out on the same day in like 12 different publications? How does that happen? Like, where did they organize that? And, well, Media Matters is the mothership of all of that, like, media corroboration, and it's a multinational outlet. So it works with, obviously, with the DNC, but also with the EU and with, things like the Guardian UK and the BBC. Media Matters coordinates, and basically they corroborate their stories so that it's like, okay, if all of us say something, people are going to believe it. And so they lie, like, all the time, probably most of the time. Like, Media Matters is like, okay, how are we going to come up with believable lies?
It's propaganda.
Yeah, it's beyond fucking creepy. And the fact that they're taking, like, the money from wealthy gay men who want to believe that they're helping their communities, that money is going to Media Matters, like, it makes me furious.
Bacon, I'm going to say that, like, all I did was basically come up with a faint idea, and you've come up with more information I even know what to do with. So I officially pass you to Prince of Queens, whose diabolical brain will actually, and much larger platform, will be able to make use of your research god powers. So have at it, like, Prince.
White ribbon shit from Australia.
Sorry?
The white ribbon campaign in Australia, like, there was this whole thing where, like, they got like Aaron Pizzey, like, went after them, and, like, it was really funny because, like, if you look into their finances, like, you look at all the shit they waste their money on. It was a similar kind of deal. I don't know if they were related to Media Matters or anything, but like a lot of it was, like, promoting money for just, like, propaganda campaigns. But yeah, Media Matters.
Man, I would love to start. I don't know. I'm not good at researching. I'm not that good at researching.
Bacon is.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, no, it's not where I shine. I work best with a, like, I work best with coming up with, like, I'm like, okay, I bet that there's a connection here. It's your job to find it. And then sure enough, the person that I, asked to do that for tends to be able to find it, and they just don't know where to look. And like they don't know which. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
I come up with the conspiracy theory, and it more than often it maybe is not exactly what I thought it was, but okay. Yeah, because I would love to start exposing these gay male organizations.
It's
Or not.
God, it's so much more. It's like literally like I went down the list of like you know how they bitch about trans people getting the short end of everything back in 2016 because this is a 2016 financial report.
Uh-huh.
I think even Media Matters got more money than all the local trans organizations did.
Damn.
So I'm just like, you guys are so full of shit. I mean, I don't understand why people aren't digging through their financials and saying, hey, what the fuck is up with this?
Yeah. Regardless, I said in this thread when they were talking about the meth crisis, I was like, yeah, well, theoretically there should be support for gay men. There are nonprofits. There should be a system. Like, we should be handling this problem with our community, but we're not. It's been this growing problem that we're not dealing with it, and we're all sitting around twiddling our thumbs and crying when another friend of ours ends up dying every fucking time. We don't have a solution at all. And the nonprofits that we do have, guess what? Guess who runs them? Fucking feminists. And that's a shame. I don't think that they're helping. Because, I mean, obviously they aren't. Because, yeah, well, and it's like, because the GLBT organizations didn't used to all unanimously be run by feminists. And sure, there was a lot of meth in the 1990s, but it actually went away. Like, it did. It really wasn't as popular last decade. And gay men were way cooler last decade, just in general. Like, they weren't all they list. There was a lot of like punk rock and gay men were just way cooler. They're just like,
we had the best music. We were cutting edge. Now we're just sort of there.
We embraced our masculinity to a certain degree. But we weren't trying to be like straight acting necessarily. We were trying to be gay men. We weren't trying to be like weird, like people with feminist identity crises. So, but I didn't elaborate on it that much. I basically just said, this is a problem. It's getting worse. We theoretically should have solutions for it. And yet we don't. And instead of solutions, we have feminism. And then, of course, it turned into, I don't want to say a shitstorm. There was one particular fucking guy that was just like, how can you say that? How can anyone, desecrate the glorious name of our sisters? I will not stand. And it's like, okay. And he's like, don't you know that women were the ones who cared for us in the during the AIDS crisis? And I'm like, okay, I'm like, I didn't say I hate women. I said that I don't like feminists. And he was like, but they were feminists. And it's like, first of all, that's not entirely true. A lot of them
synonymous.
Yeah, it's like, first of all, I don't know if all of them were feminists. Second of all, they are synonymous. Third, the women who helped gay men during the AIDS crisis are not the same as the non-binary identified feminists who are abusing us today. They're not the same fucking people. Like any woman who helped dying gay men in the 1980s is really old now. The people who are fucking a problem are the goddamn like Cat Blacks of the world. Like talking about gay men constantly groping women or some shit. I don't owe Cat. Okay, Cat Black, first of all, she's trans. Second of all, she was probably not even born in the 80s. I'm pretty sure she was born in the 90s. Like the audacity, but these guys were like I was just trying to explain this, something that to us, because of the fact that, we've been talking about this very topic as it relates to gay men specifically, for years, at this point, like I have been, and you guys have been following my channel, and this is something that's completely we've been talking about for years. But there's countless gay men who have it's never occurred to them that they're allowed to say to feminists that they aren't appreciative of what some women did in the 1980s. And so when I just said, you know what? They're not helping us anymore. They aren't doing, what has fucking feminist women done for you lately? Like when I said that, they were shocked, and they kept writing the nerve over and over. But it was funny because I started linking them with stuff. Like they're like, you're just saying that. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm not the only one who's said that. Like here's a whole book called The New Gay Liberation: Escaping the Fag End of Feminism. Here's an essay written in 1976 that shows that this is a problem that always existed with feminists. That was just pre-AIDS. And here's all these videos, like I linked like 4 videos, and
well, obviously, you're just a walking, talking contagion of wrongthink.
Yes.
Well, the one guy was really persistent about trying to like sort of argue, but he just his arguments just didn't make any sense. Like he just really, really wanted to defend women and thought that I was attacking women, and he couldn't get it through his head that not like okay. What it really sounded like from this guy was that he really, really felt that gay men owe women for what women did for gay men, or for what like lesbians did for gay men during the AIDS crisis, and that like I don't know, if we're ungrateful, then they're gonna fucking throw us in the trash if it ever happens again or something, like they're gonna be like, that Prince of Queens guy was pretty ungrateful, so fucking you're on the streets, you fucking dying sickly gay man, hope you enjoy your AIDS.
You are banned from the official lesbian sewing circle. You will not be included in our quilt of remembrance.
Yeah.
I just gotta ask, dude, who actually thinks that any of these feminists would even be there for us if shit really hit the fan?
Yeah, I don't think that they will be. No, that's the fucking thing. They weren't last time. The feminist organizations actively wouldn't care. There were feminist organizations saying this is a thing that's affecting men, therefore we don't care. And lesbians, apparently a number of lesbians split off from greater feminist organizing to take care of gay men because somebody needed to do it. Like,
well, I know my mom did it. And she's not a feminist or anything.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, yeah. she's like against like some of the shit they pull now.
Yeah. So why the fuck would like these are fucking women that are so incredibly selfish that when as Derek, would you describe your argument regarding the responses? It was in your video.
Which one? I mean, which I mean,
when you got to the point when you talked about how women only care about men's issues if it's a means to their end.
Right. I mean, this is kind of there really the greater controversy is like Thoughtgate, and it's an accusation that's basically thrown at femRAs really, really commonly, like and it's this idea that basically all women are gynocentric. Then the idea is that the only woman who's not engaging in gynocentric behaviors is the woman who's not alive, not breathing. But it's taking kind of this extreme stance, and essentially it gets conspiratorial to the point where basically femRAs can never be good enough because you can always find some way to say like, no, here's her secret plot to actually manipulate men into doing their bidding. that's one way. Now, sometimes the accusations kind of do have some meat to them, so it's all just a total case by case thing. So I guess in a general sense, I'm not exactly sure where to go with it, but the idea is there's a conflict of interest, and a lot of men are very, very distrusting of women who are helping out in men's issues, and they have they have good reason to be suspicious, oftentimes for the same reason that women might be suspicious of men who are trying to be good male feminists. It's basically that. It's basically how you have that trope about how male feminists are like awful. And it's kind of a flip where it's like the women in the men's movement similarly are a little bit distrusted. And for the men in the feminist movement, what's projected onto them is stereotypically bad male behaviors, that they're creepy or sexually weird or whatever, like those kind of things. And then what's projected onto the femmale because they're women is that they're greedy, basically, and manipulative and two-faced or whatever.
Yeah, there was something great though that you said. Like you said, you got very mad, and you said it was something like these are the typical arguments against. Okay, so your video was about this, the guest video for my channel. You said the typical arguments if feminists could end the men's movement anytime if they actually put their money where their mouth is and started to actually advocate for gender equality. And
yeah, because they could just use that as their weapon forever. They could just say, hey, look, we solved your issue. You guys do nothing, right? Because that's the setup right now, but they don't have the empirical evidence to back it up.
In any way. And one of the things that you said was, and I forget the exact point that you made, and so I want you to remember, because you're the one who made it. But when you got very angry and you said, "This is the most soulless argument that somebody could possibly come up with," do you remember what you had said at that moment?
I mean, all I can kind of do is just reconstruct it. The idea, I guess, is there. The issue is that when you make the argument, no, we care about men too, like you're acknowledging that the issues are real, right? And the whole situation of it, and then it becomes a matter of like a pragmatic thing of like who's doing it better or whatever. But then they just drop it at that point. It just gets totally dropped. Like the whole concept of them being helpful to men isn't a thing. You know what? It might be this too. Like men are constantly told, why don't you express your emotions? Why don't you ask for help? Why don't you seek help and things like that? But then the moment they do, like the help's just not fucking there. And like that's even shittier than not helping someone, is to like hold your hand out and be like, no, here, like I'll help you. And then like to just not do it. I don't know. I mean, there's so many ways that it's just hypocritical. But I mean, in a nutshell, it's basically feminists like talk this big game about being all about gender equality. That's the premise of all three waves of the women's movement, yet they've done fuck all about it, and they don't seem to have any argument that proves this claim that women have ever had it worse.
Yeah. Well, okay, so that was tangential. I was hoping to get you to remember a specific point that you made, but I guess
sorry,
I can't. No, I just I think that they were saying like that. Okay, well, regardless, back to the conversation about the thread. So I think that this guy just, it was as if he had been so thoroughly emotionally blackmailed by the feminist women in his life into believing that not only that feminism and women were completely inextricably tied, and that all women are feminists. They just don't know it yet if they think that they're not, or whatever the fuck feminists told him, because feminists will say that. They if there's certain feminists that will totally say all women are feminists, and all feminism, feminists did a lot for gay men. gay men owe feminists, and you better be thankful or else. And he thoroughly apparently has been indoctrinated into that mentality where he is scared of like, like it would be like making if he came home with a bad grade and his mother started crying, he doesn't want that to happen again, basically. That was that guy. And then there was some other cunt that came in, was like, I remember this Prince guy from other conversations. All these people have blocked him. He's such an asshole. And all he would do was talk about me. Like, he didn't actually talk about what we were talking about. Like, we were not talking about meth anymore. He was just saying some shit about me and some other... He's like, you're always like this. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Yeah, because I care about things. Will you shut up? I'm trying to talk about, like, this meth problem and how we're going to solve it. And he's like, but you always... And I was like, dude, leave me alone. I don't want to go out with you.
Your issues are getting in the way of my rant, my feelings.
Well, no, he didn't even want to actually talk about anything besides me. He wanted to, like, his entire point was like, oh, look, here's this Prince guy again who has convictions, and I want to say that I disagree with him, except for I'm not going to say what I disagree with him about. I'm just going to say, fuck this guy. And it was kind of a shame because we were trying to talk about, meth and what I think might do to sort of help the situation. And I was actually offering an idea, which would be getting feminism out of the place where it has a monopoly over all of LGBT, nonprofits. Like, it doesn't have to have a monopoly and try to, like, tell us that, yeah. Okay. So those were those two people. But the person whose timeline it happened upon is at first he said the nerve. Like, he was like the nerve, but that was pretty much all he said. But then I told him, I was like, look, dude. I don't want to say his name, but I'll just say John. It's not his real name. I'll say, John, like, I offered at least 5 or 6 different links about information. Now, I'm not demanding that you end up agreeing with me in the end, but it's not like I'm just saying some shit and it's like my opinion. You can look into the information for yourself. And I really, really hope that you do that, because I'm actually trying to solve a problem. And you're just sitting around complaining about how there's guys destroying their life with meth. And I agree that that's a problem. But I'm at least bringing a lot of information to the table. And one of the things that I have really concluded is that feminism is one of the problems in the gay male community that I think is leading guys towards this this hopelessness. And people abuse drugs when they're hopeless, like when they don't feel like they have anything else going for them. Fuck, I went to the ocean a month ago or so for a vacation for 3 days, and we drove there and we stopped in a few towns in Washington State, and let me tell you, those towns, those poor towns on the way to the ocean, Methville. Like, obviously.
Methistan.
It was not cute. And, like, we were, we stopped and we ate lunch in one of them. Like, we had to get something to drink, like I wanted some, like, seltzer water or something. And we went to this, like, little kind of, like, deli type place or whatever. And like, we should have parked somewhere else besides there, because it was like, oh my god, like some young people came by, like they're probably in their early 20s or so. One of them had like a stroller, like this couple had a stroller, but they were both obviously drug addicts. And then they were meeting some guy, and the guy came up and he had like fucking tattoo on his face and shit.
That's never a good sign.
No,
unless you're stitching.
The only thing worse than like a face tattoo. Well, no, Okay, maybe the face tattoo is the worst. Although I did once see a morbidly obese woman who had this really large rose tattoo. I mean, like about, I'd say 12 inches across on like the lower half of her neck and the upper part of her chest, going down to the cleavage line. It was just really, I don't know what could possibly have made her think that was a good idea.
Are you sure it wasn't just like maybe like a red circle or like a design, but then she just got like wrinkles and like bad like multiple chins that made it like a rose?
No, it was an elaborate filigree with roses and ivy, and I mean it was a whole thing. I mean, she clearly spent a lot of money doing that hideous thing to herself.
If I was a land whale and had like big fat rolls, I would just like get the ocean tattooed across my torso.
You're pretty close, Derek. You're quite heavy.
I'm pretty chubby, actually. I'm getting fatter. Dude, I ate a whole pizza a couple days ago, and I didn't even like feel acidy, that's a bad sign. I gotta change. I made 2 great nutritional changes though. I bought these chocolate bar things and gummies. I bought chocolate and gummies so I can be more healthy by eating chocolate and gummies. Took the first 2 steps. Katz is a nurse. He can verify that these are good steps.
Yes.
Yes.
Or
this is
not.
medical advice.
Yes, you should totally eat different candy instead of just not eating the candy.
Have I told you guys explicitly?
As up to 100.
So
I want to stay on topic a little bit though, because have I told you guys explicitly my step 1 solution for gay men to like stop fucking abusing the substances?
No,
like,
I don't think so.
No.
I don't have like I don't have 12 steps, but I do have step 1. And it came from reading that Huffington Post article, the gay loneliness epidemic is what it was called. And it actually wasn't a bad article in the way that it at least covered a lot of the bases in terms of gay male issues and what they are, and admitted that we are facing a particularly rough time in the current year. And nobody really knows why. And they had said that they thought everything was going to get a lot better when marriage equality passed, and then it didn't. And now people are starting to like, you know, scratch their heads and think like, what's going on? And so they brainstormed a bunch. Of course, they never said, could it possibly have something to do with the fact that gay men are, you know, shamed from within because feminists control our realities and shame us for being male? Like, could that possibly have a negative effect? Gee, they didn't never say they didn't say that. But one of the things that they did focus on, and this okay, so like obviously get rid of feminism, that would help. So that would be step 1. But I even came up with step 2. And step 2 is not just something that it's not sort of independent, but it coexists on the continuum of getting rid of feminism, in the way that it is advice that feminists will never tell you. They will never give you this advice, and they can't give you this advice because they're fucking women. This is the advice. So in the article, they talked so much, like half the article, I swear to God, was about how gay men abuse substances because they are lonely, and they're lonely because they get rejected all the time, and it hurts their self-esteem. And they feel bad about themselves because they get rejected at the bars and on the hookup profiles. And so then they use a bunch of substances, and rejection sucks so much, and fuck that, and basically, right? And I was thinking about it to myself, and I was like, okay, yeah, maybe that was like part of the reason why I abuse substances in my in my early 20s or something. But no, that stopped. I got over that, and I did it successfully and very explicitly when I got to San Francisco. And it got to a certain point when I had sex with so many different hot guys and dated so many hot guys and had so many hot guys fall in love with me and pursue me and shit. And that, okay, it sounds like I'm totally bragging, but fucking whatever. That was just me personally.
Per stream.
What?
You gotta check the humble brag box once per stream.
Humble brag. No, that's basically a full blown brag.
But you got some credit.
But what the over the course this just happened to me very, very randomly, but I think that it's what happened to me is something that could become a skill that gay men could try to teach each other. Over the course of me hooking up with all these different hot guys and being really, really into a guy, being meeting a guy and being that guy's the hottest guy in town, or not just hottest, but coolest and hottest, the most eligible guy to date in town is this specific guy. I will date him. And sure enough, give me 3 weeks and we were dating and he was in love with me and we date for 3 months. Horrible relationship, but I got what I fucking wanted. We did fall in love. Things like that kept happening to me and it was cool. But then I also would get pursued by one guy and not really want to date him, but he was really, really hot. Or I would accidentally have sex with some guy that I wasn't really so into and I would reject him, but he was okay looking, and these things just happened over and over and over. And then I realized, wait, I don't have to fucking care at all. I really, really don't. I don't have to have any of my self-esteem riding on any of this stuff at all, ever. Because sometimes these guys get really butthurt. If I don't want to date them.
Pun intended.
They'll, dude. So, no, not pun intended. Sometimes these guys will get really, really annoyed because of the fact that I wouldn't want to date them. And then I started having to think to myself, do I ever get like that? Because it's really fucking annoying when I have no problem with the guy. I just don't want to go out with him, and he gets all offended. That's so irritating. So if I ever do that to other guys, what kind of annoying, horrible hypocrite am I?
I'm going to have to excuse myself for a moment.
Yeah. Oh, he's just left. So I realized that I would be a horrible, horrible hypocrite if I were to be horribly offended by rejection and yet also be rejecting guys. So then I decided to care about neither. So I decided that if a guy decided to hit on me and I wasn't into him, then I would say, no, I'm not particularly attracted to you, but then give him the benefit of the doubt and assume the best and that he isn't going to be horribly offended by it, and maybe we can be friends. In turn, if I decided to hit on a guy and he didn't want to have sex with me or date me, then I would just say, and if he said, no, it's cool, but we can still be friends, then I would actually legitimately just be like, okay, cool, and try to actually be his friend. And I did that. And I was so much happier once I started doing that. And it took a little while. It took a while to train myself to do that and to get used to the fact that there are other guys out there who are legitimately like that. And granted, they tend to be guys who are pretty conventionally good looking and generally socially agreeable guys that most people want to hang out with. But man, hanging out with guys that are like that makes you so much more fucking happy. And so just getting over this idea that you have to care about being rejected, or that rejecting other guys is some sort of bad thing that they're going to care about. Because if you don't really care, life is just a lot better as a gay guy. But that's something that's very distinct to gay men. Gay men can get over this notion of being rejected and just not care about it. Now, women can't, and they never fucking will. Women, if a woman gets rejected, it's going to hurt her feelings really, really, really bad. And there's biological reasons for that. Like if a woman gets rejected, that could mean the abandonment of her children, biologically. That could mean all sorts of things. That could, if a woman has sex with a man, gets pregnant, and then he leaves, then she's screwed, right? So she has to be really, really choosy about who she has sex with.
A choosy Susie. Sorry, go ahead.
What?
She's being a choosy Susie.
Something like that. So she has to be quite choosy, and so when a woman decides that she definitely really does want to be with a guy, and then he rejects her, it's much more of a big deal. But men, so they're wild oats. They're attracted to a lot of people, right? Well, one of the things I think kind of happened, and I don't know if this was always the case. I honestly suspect that there's a very high probability that this wasn't always the case. But somewhere along the lines, like somewhere along the way, during the 1990s, it became really, really, 80s and 90s, it stopped being culturally acceptable for gay men to have lots of sex. They still did, of course, because they're men, but there was a lot of slut shaming in the gay male community because of AIDS. And also, the feminist influence came into being, and then also guys were coming out at earlier ages, and guys in high school. So instead of going to college and coming out, or going to gay bars and coming out that way, gay guys in the 1990s were starting to come out at high school and be the gay best friend to the popular girls, and that kind of shit, like I was. And when you're a gay guy and all your friends are girls, you get socialized to care about dating in the way that a girl would. And you start to condition yourself to think it's a really, really huge deal if you're into a guy and he's not into you. And you start thinking that way. But you don't have to fucking be that way. You're not a girl. And especially considering the fact of how many guys you might end up rejecting yourself. So if gay guys were to just think about it in those terms, like, wait, I know it's really, it can hurt your feelings if you write to a guy on Grindr and he writes you back and he says, lose 20 pounds and maybe we can talk, or something like that. Like, I know that really hurts your feelings. However, how many guys do you reject on Grindr every night? Every time you go on? Like, how many messages do you not even respond to at all? Think about that. What type of hypocrite are you if you're acting like you're allowed to have your
standards,
feelings hurt? What?
To have your standards, your choices.
Choices?
Like your choices of partner, like to be who you exclude, who you accept.
Yeah. Like, you probably reject just as many, if not more, people than who reject you. And that, yeah, there you are trying to play the victim about it. And maybe instead of having, these weird long drawn out conversations about the pain of rejection, and then I don't know what their solution is, like learning how to cry better or fucking whatever. Like I imagine that's the solution. Like, oh, rejection sucks. What if there's a little bit more of an emphasis on telling these guys to man the fuck up, and remember that you're a man and that you're dealing with other men, and that it's that, like, do unto others as they would do unto you. Like, get fucking used to it. If you're gonna reject guys, expect to get rejected in turn. That's what gay dating is like. And I don't ever hear anybody just saying that.
You're right, and it's something I think that is coming from the feminist influence on the gay community, because talking about masculinity, there's this idea that gay men are like, we're gay first, and like, yeah, we're men, but masculinity is not important, and now gender is not even that important. So we're starting to see the fruits of an entire generation of young gays that have been never taught what masculinity actually means, how to deal with it, because you have it, whether you think you do or not. I mean, you can wear all the glitter you want, you can like really, camp it up, but at the end of the day, you're still a man, and there are certain realities of being a man that your choice of accessories and, affectations are not going to change.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I know one thing that I've seen this a few times on various gay news sites about if you don't date someone, you're transphobic or whatever they're pitching about the day. And I'm like, hey, if someone doesn't talk to you or is a dick, just block them and move on. They're not worth the space on your app.
I totally agree. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I have to work in the morning, and we started a bit later than we normally do. But do you guys have any closing remarks that you want to tie this all together with?
Well, I just think it's great that now Prince of Queens is going to be doing gay PUA content. I fully support this.
Is that what it is?
What is PUA?
Pickup artists.
Oh.
Yeah,
it is kind of vaguely like, well, okay, so one of the things that the pickup artists are apparently very misunderstood, and I know this because I saw so when people think of the pickup artists, they think of Roosh V, but apparently everybody in the entire world hates Roosh V.
Dude, even Roosh V is misunderstood. Even I don't hate Roosh V.
Okay, no, okay, MRAs don't particularly like Roosh V as a whole, I would say. I would say most MRAs are not very fond of him.
Fucking destroyed him. It was super funny. Sorry, that's all.
I saw clips of that.
Oh my god.
But
she was in character and she beat him in debate.
Wait,
regardless, some fucking 4chan-y girl that gets on streams. She became famous by showing up to Shia LaBeouf's thing and yelling, "Normies, get off my street, or some shit like that." And then she became 4chan famous and sometimes shows up on live streams. She can be pretty funny. I watched a long live stream with her just talking about herself for like an hour and a half, and I actually found her rather amusing.
That's the thing. It's hard to explain to anyone outside of the internet. That's the thing. We will never be able to explain Brittany Venti to aliens. That's on the list. That's just they're just gonna be like, I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I made a video where I sort of talked about Roosh V, and Roosh V is supposed to be the big pickup artist, and he I forget he was the guy that wrote the essay that saying that rape on private property should be not a crime because he thinks it would be harm reduction or some shit like that.
Yeah, brilliant. He's right. And the point of it is to show people that they're hypocritical when they talk about victim blaming, because they'd rather have more people get raped than be victim blamers. That's the point of the article, and that's why it's so funny. It was brilliant. It was totally brilliant.
Yeah, I got it. No, I listened to Karen Strawn's interview with him where they actually explained the point of it, and I remember it being like, okay, I can see the point of it, but No, he is not. He's not that cool though. It's not like he's like you get into some weird shit, dude. Roosh V he is not endorsed by me, and you can endorse him all you want, but on the public record of the Gaytriarchy Podcast, he is not somebody that I could say is allowed to be on the friends and family links at the bottom by any means.
He is not Gaytriarchy certified.
He's not. He's definitely not nearly so bad as people make him out to be. He's not like this horrible person that actually wants to rape women, like they will say about him. But even amongst so he's supposed to represent pickup artists, and I didn't really know what pickup artists were, but I mentioned something about pickup artists, and I talked about Roosh V, and then some actual pickup artist guy said, "No, you're wrong. Can I live stream with you and correct you?" And so I said yes. And so then this guy ended up being he actually has Asperger's, and he explains to me for an hour, basically me just sitting there being like, oh, for an hour as he goes on and explains what pickup artists actually are. And it's basically the art of straight men coaching each other in terms of how to date and how to get what they want out of relationships. If you want one night stands, this is how you get them most effectively. And also don't get accused of being raped. And it did start out with a little bit of dishonesty, like, how this is how you pick up a woman, and they would say, yeah, you can tell her that you want to marry her, and maybe she'll put out blah blah blah. But then they realized that actually wasn't a good strategy, so pickup artists don't actually really train each other in that anymore, because it doesn't work long term. It turns out
they evolved.
Yeah, they evolved. Absolutely. So that's what Derek was talking about in terms of me talking about this like gay male rejection thing. It is kind of similar to that.
It is. I like that.
Okay. I don't have anything to say more. It would sound like I did, but I don't.
It's funny and ironic because like gay men are sluts. So like that's why like gay PUA is like a funny joke. Like
it is. I will say this though, like at least on Grindr, the younger gays are horrible prudes and just like really like if I see one more like 18-year-old twink on Grindr that says I'm not here for sex, I'm like, bitch, get the fuck off this app then. What you are literally taking up bandwidth. I'm not paying for Grindr extras just so I can talk to your glitter ass.
I'm on Grindr for the one.
Like the 1D.
Younger gay guys have always been like that though. They've always pretended not to be slutty.
When little princesses.
Well, in which case, I must say then, all younger gay men, I hate you.
I think it has to do with I think it has to do with the female friend group in high school. They're fresh out of high school. They think that they're supposed to not be slutty.
I was closeted, so I was as whorish as I possibly could be. Well, not possibly. I still had standards, but.
You know what's funny is all my friends used to be women, and now like none of them are, and I have no idea why.
Yeah,
I have no idea either, Mr. Radical MRA. That.
Yeah, I was gonna say I could think of a few possible, maybe.
I didn't do anything.
Well, on that note, you want to have the final break?
I guess so. I was just gonna say most of my friends are guys as well, and the people that I know that are women are generally pretty how do I put this, easy. So yeah, it's basically my family's always been have your standards and use a condom.
Okay. That's sort of been my when I came out to my parents, their first question wasn't like, are you sure? Well, they said, are you sure? Are you sexually active? Are you using condoms? I'm like, yes. I'm like, okay. And on that note, thank you everyone who came here tonight. I promise I don't know if we'll be doing this on my channel again. Prince, when does your channel get back? It's going to be a little while. You're appealing the strike, right?
Yeah. I mean, the appeal might have even gone through. For all I know, I just haven't even been on email today because I'd have to go through my phone, and it's a pain in the ass.
It is. Okay, well then, if Prince's channel is still non-streamable. I promise a much smoother process because I myself might have migrated to a PC, and I'm still it should be the same, but it never seems like it is. So it'll be better next time, I promise. Prince of Queens, Spacepan, Bacon, love all of you. And thanks you,
for
audience
tuning in,
members.
everybody.
All right,
Thanks for
peace.
having
See you
me.
next Friday.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.